Asheebo Rojas with the Chatham News and Record, and we have Coach Barry. And today we got, as you can see, we've got on our roundup. We're going to talk about what Asheebo's got in the News and Record newspaper. He's going to talk about last week's score, a bunch of activity going on there. Of course, Asheebo's Athlete of the Week. We're also going to talk about the fact that there have been two games that happened last week, one between Chatham Central and Northwood, one between Jordan-Matthews and Seaforth. Both Coach Barry and Asheebo, they were at either one of those events, and then we'll get into the power rankings. So that's what we got on our schedule today. Before we start off, I do want to say I've got Asheebo with me. We're at 79 West in Mosaic at Chatham Park, and he's running off to do an interview with Reed Albright. So he's going to be busy doing that later on because Reed hit 1,000 points at Chatham Central. So let's kick this off. Asheebo, how come you? Wait a minute. Let me see. I may need to do this for a second. Well, it's showing up as my name down there, but I will need to change that because that is not Gene Galin. That is Asheebo Rojas, but I will take care of it. Asheebo, go ahead.
Yeah, so you just want to run through the roundup from last week, right?
Sure, let's go. Yeah, let's go for it.
Yeah, just start with other sports. Start with wrestling here. We had a tri-meet with Chatham Central, Jordan-Matthews, and Central Carolina Academy exactly a week from today. And in that one, Jordan-Matthews, they won over Chatham Central 36-30. Central Carolina Academy also lost to Jordan-Matthews 48-36. So the Jets picked up 2 wins there. And Chatham Central lost to Central Carolina Academy 36-39 in a close one. And then Chatham Central also competed in the Greg Harden Invitational Saturday. And in that one, they beat Lee County 36-30, but they fell to Asheboro, Eastern Randolph, North Iredell, and South Davidson also in that meet. And then Jordan-Matthews, they were in the Silver Fox Invitational on Saturday. And then their furthest 2 wrestlers that advanced there, Nehemiah Page was in the 113-pound weight class, and Jakari Blue in the 190-pound weight class. They both finished 4th in their respective weight classes. And then Seaforth, their invitational was the Jolly Roger Invitational on Saturday. And in that one, Gabe Rogers from 106, Jordan Miller from 113, and Lane Armstrong from 126 all finished first in their respective weight classes. George Lloyd in 175 came in second, and Kara Rosenmarkle once again finished first for the girls' 152-pound division. And then the swimming, we had a couple meets that Chatham County swimmers swam in. For the Asheboro meet with Ledford, Chatham Central, and Jordan-Matthews on the 8th. Jesse Eskelin came in first for the boys 100 meters butterfly and the boys 100 meters backstroke. And then in Asheboro, they had the open meet again on Wednesday, and it was plenty of first-place finishers, too many to list here, but you can read it all in the paper that came out this week. We have the roundup of all the first-place finishers in that meet for swimming. It was a great week for the Chatham County swimmers. And then in indoor track, we had plenty of top 5 finishers at the East Chapel Hill Polar Meet Saturday. Just a couple of highlights. We had Lucas Smith finishing 3rd in the boys 55-meter dash and 1st in the boys 500-meter dash. And then Johnson Brett from Seaforth finished 4th in the boys 3,200-meter run. William Quickie from Seaforth, 1st in the boys 1,600-meter run. And then we also had Seaforth finishing 2nd in the boys 4x400-meter relay, and 3rd in the boys 4x800-meter relay. 2nd in the girls 4x400-meter relay, and 1st in the girls 4x800-meter relay. So plenty of top finishes for Seaforth. Jordan-Matthews also has some top finishes as well. They were 4th in the boys 4x800-meter relay. And then Juana Jimenez from Seaforth finished 1st in the girls 3,200-meter run. So, yeah, also plenty of top 5 finishes from the East Chapel Hill Polar Bear meet on Saturday that you can read in the roundup.
All right. Hey, let's talk about the fact that this Saturday, was it the 1A, 2A, Mid-Carolina is having their wrestling tournament over at Seaforth.
Yes. Yeah. So our conference wrestling teams from the Chatham County and the Mid-Carolina 1A, 2A conference will be competing for a conference champion. I know, Seaforth has been dominant the entire year, but it'll be good to see Jordan-Matthews, who has picked up a couple wins as of late here the last half of the season as well, and see how they can shake out against a team like Seaforth.
All right, and I talked to Coach Armstrong over at Seaforth. That's supposed to start at 9 o'clock. They don't have the pairings yet. That's going to happen tomorrow. So when that information gets on, you'll see information from Asheebo on his Twitter account, and we'll post it as well. So Let's talk about those big games on Friday. All four of the 1A, 2A, Mid Carolina folks got to play. All of them Chatham County schools against each other. Both Coach Barry. Let's bring Coach Barry into this picture here. And Asheebo, we're at those games. Asheebo, why don't you kick it off?
Yeah, so just also wanted to start by running through the scores from last week as well. So just on the boys' side, Northwood, they started the week with an 80-26 win over Cummings. And then they also pulled out a tough 66-42 win over Chatham Central, which we'll get into just in a minute, Coach Barry. And then they finished the week. We'll also talk about this game against Myers Park Saturday. They lost that one 47-63. They fought hard in that one, but just some threes in the third quarter there from Sir Muhammad on Myers Park, kind of put it out of reach there. And then Jordan-Matthews, they won a back and forth battle over Seaforth, which we'll also get into. They won that one 62-59. And Seaforth also played again on Monday in the MLK Classic, losing to Eastern Alamance 54-86. And then Chatham Charter, they played Woods Charter, our charter school battle there, and they won 64-29 over the Wolves. And then Chatham Charter followed that with a 71-49 win over Clover Garden School on Friday. So plenty of basketball last week. Now, for our big games, we had the two county matchups, like Gene said, on Friday between Chatham Central and Northwood and Jordan-Matthews and Seaforth. Coach Barry, I want to start with Chatham Central and Northwood because that one was the game that was, it shocked a lot of people how it went in the beginning, right? We had Chatham Central up at the end of the first quarter. They were playing Northwood really tough there in the first half, and Northwood still found a way to come out of that one with a win. Also, Reed Albright hit 1,000 points, his career milestone in that one early on. So what did you see in that game from Northwood and Chatham Central?
First off, congratulations to Reed Albright on eclipsing the 1,000-point mark in his high school career. He's a fabulous player. I love everything that he's doing. He's playing hard. He's a competitor and well-deserved. So congratulations, Reed Albright. Super proud of you. As far as the game of Northwood versus Chatham Central, I thought the game plan that Chatham Central had was perfect. They came out. They told themselves, we're going to be patient on offense. We're going to move the ball. We're going to force Northwood or try to force Northwood to defend for 20, 30, 40 seconds to shorten the game. And if and when the shots become available that are high percentage, we're going to take those shots. Initially, Chatham Central was hitting a lot of three-pointers. And on the flip side, Northwood, missed some shots. And next thing you know, you look up and Chatham Central is up at the end of the first quarter. The other thing that happened that was interesting in that game was there was a play where Drake Powell, the star player for Northwood, inadvertently got hit in the eye, and he called timeout. He got taken out, and for the remainder of that first quarter, maybe the last 3 minutes or so, he didn't play. And during that particular point in time, Chatham Central built up a little bit of a lead. They were up by like 6 points, I believe, at the end of the first quarter. By the time the second quarter happened, Coach Brown made an adjustment. He decided to, instead of running that 1-3-1 full court press, what he ended up doing was he ended up matching up man-to-man full court with Drake Powell, specifically on Reed Albright. And Chatham Central, that didn't really phase them initially, but just the fatigue over time, the second period, the third period, the fourth period, eventually Northwood took the lead, started gaining the lead, and then the game sort of got out of reach. But at the end of the day, Chatham Central shocked a lot of people by being competitive through the second quarter. And that's a team to be reckoned with. That's a team that you can't take lightly because on any given day, I believe Chatham Central can beat any team that they play.
Yeah, we already said, Chatham Central, they've looked up to this point. I think they're still at 12 wins and 3 losses now, but they looked up to this point, to be the second best team, not just in the county, but also in the conference, with some other 2A schools, Southeast Alamance and Cummings. So, I think playing them as stuff they did against Northwood wasn't a surprise for me. I don't know about most people, but we know what Reed Albright could do. And even the fact that they still took him away, like you said, after that first half, and in the second half they put Drake on them, and for the rest of the game, that was a single-digit scoring game for Reed. they still found a way to stay in the game with the threes and other guys. It just really tells you, what kind of team Coach Burke has. They're really a team-oriented, style of basketball team there. And also, we know they can play good defense as well. We know they hustle to the ball. They got some a really strong defensive presence there up top with Devontae Johnson as well. So, to me, it wasn't surprising that it was a little closer than people thought. But yeah, Chatham Central is a team that I think when you look at what they've done against Northwood, and then of course what they've done against other teams that they beat down this season, they look like they could possibly make a run, for a deep playoff run in the 1A level. Don't you think, Coach Barry?
Yes, I mean, no doubt about it. I think one of the things I'm going to point out is Luke Gaines, number 22. He had a fantastic game. He must have hit 3, 4, 5 threes, and
he had 5 threes.
5 threes. He was one of the key guys that pushed the lead for Chatham Central. It was Luke Gaines, number 22. I believe Aiden Johnson, number 10. He did a lot of great things underneath the basket. Just an energy person, hustle person, getting the rebounds. This is a team that's not a joke. I think when the state playoffs come, I expect them to make a deep run when it comes to that. They're going to make at least 3rd, 4th, maybe even 5th round. This is a team that's experienced. They have a lot of skilled players. They're not going to be scared of teams coming at them, trying to overwhelm them with pressure, because they can move the ball really well. Like you said, with Dante and the rest of those perimeter players, they can hit threes. They can break a press. They can play in transition. They can play slow. This is going to be a very hard out for any 1A team. And if they played other 1A teams in the county, I think it would be a long day in the office for those particular teams. And so that leads me to this point. If you look at Chatham Central, the beautiful thing about what's happening to them is this. Even though they're a 1A school, they're playing 2A, 3A schools. They're playing up the whole time. When it comes time for the state playoffs, and you put Chatham Central against other 1A teams who are not as well prepared and has played as many tough teams as they have played, it is going to give them a leg up. And this is why I predict they will most certainly have a deep run in the state playoffs, particularly at the 1A level.
Yeah, let me interject here, because folks who watch this live stream regularly know that last Wednesday, and actually I was at that Northwood Central game with Coach Berry, we actually said they must be listening to the live stream. They must be listening to Coach Berry and Asheebo, because they were doing what you gentlemen have talked about slowing down the game, didn't they, Coach?
Yes, they did. And that's the blueprint. You have, if any time you play a team that is loaded, they have a lot of firepower. They have the athletes. They have the speed. One way to neutralize them, if you can, is to slow the game down. I remember years ago, I don't know if Gene Galin remembers this, but his son played on my team, and we had to play Kestrel Heights. Woods Charter played Kestrel Heights. We were down 3 or 4 starters. I told the team leading up to that game, we need to burn 30 to 45 seconds every time we touch the ball. We burned the clock every time we touched the ball. We ended up losing the game, but guess what the score was? 30 to 28. And at the end of the game, the other team said, man, I don't know what happened. This was a very ugly game. We got to get our stuff together. And I was saying to myself, no, that was something that we intentionally did, because we knew if we ran and we pushed the ball against you guys who have a bunch of athletes, that it wouldn't end well for us. So that gave us the best chance of winning. And that's exactly, as Gene has just pointed out, that's exactly what Chatham Central did. And that's why the game stayed as close as it was. I thought that the full court pressure throughout the course of the game forced them to speed up a little bit. The game started to get away from him, and then Coach Burke started throwing haymakers. He tried to press him. He tried to go man-to-man. He tried to do all these different things because he was like, hey, we're going to lose the game. So, hell, why not just try it? And that didn't work out well for him either. But ultimately, he gave it a great effort. The whole team did. They played really well. They have nothing to be ashamed of. And I'm sure the next time they play Northwood, they're going to be up for the challenge once again.
Yeah, Sheila, let me ask you just to think about this too, about teams playing harder teams, because we saw that happen on Saturday night when Northwood played Myers Park, but we can talk about that more as well. So once you want to wrap it up as to Northwood and Central and talk about the JM game?
Well, actually, I wanted to just go. I want to segue into Northwood because I think Northwood had a very interesting week, right? They played, Chatham Central when they were down in the first quarter. They had to come back and win that one. And then against Myers Park, they're playing the number 3 team in the state. A lot of great players on Myers Park, Sir Muhammad, Bishop Boswell, also Sadiq White, who was killing them down low in the paint. They had a tough week, and talking to Coach Brown, they've had a really tough year as far as schedule wise, right? They played at John Wall, they went to Oregon, played the best in Oregon, back-to-back weeks, and then come here and they're still playing the best of the best. Not even just, in North Carolina on the 1A level, and then again on the 4A level. So I think Coach Brown, his team is still in the period of learning about itself, especially after this week. Against Chatham Central, they kind of learn how to play from behind. Also in a tough environment like Chatham Central, that I heard it was really rocking in there. And then also a little bit, they had to play a little bit without Drake there when he got hit in his eye as well. And then against Myers Park, we see that they also against Myers Park. I feel like we learned from that game that Northwood kind of needs its other guys to step up in that one, right? Because at the beginning, they were missing shots really early on. To me, that was the biggest problem for Northwood early on is they were getting the open looks, they were moving the ball around, getting those open threes for guys like Jay Layton, Bo Harvey, Cam Fowler. They just weren't falling. And then when they started falling in the second quarter, we see Northwood, they made a run and come right back in the game and even take the lead against Myers Park and kind of get Myers Park on their heels. So, and then the third quarter, the game flips back around where Sir Muhammad gets hot. He hits 3 threes in a row. Northwood starts missing again, and then they're down 20. And then in the fourth quarter, Drake, he scores. I think he scored 11 in the fourth quarter, tried to will them back. It was just too little, too late. And I think if they can get some more consistent offensive production from a second, third option, from like a Cam Fowler, who takes a lot of shots on his own and can be that second option for them in some games, I think Northwood can really elevate to that point of, okay, not only can we compete with some of the best teams in the state, we can now beat them. Because we saw that in John Wall. They're going to run into some really good teams on the 2A level, like Reedsville, like Farmville Central. And that's, all those state championship appearances that they haven't won yet. They're trying to get over that hump. I think having 2 or 3 other guys that can be really reliable for you every night will really get them to that point to where they can beat teams like that. And what do you see from that game, Coach Barry?
I think you're spot on with this, Asheebo. I think that if you look at Myers Park, number one, they rank number 1 in the state. That team is loaded, and I will be shocked if they don't win the whole thing when state playoff time starts. The second thing I'm going to mention about that game is this. Northwood has 1 Drake Powell. If you look at Myers Park, they got like 3 or 4 of them. 3 or 4 of them. So going back to what Asheebo said, in order for Northwood to be competitive with those type of teams, we're going to have a body of players from our team that really up their level and play at a point where, we can match what these other teams are doing. And I think that was primarily one of the major issues in this particular game. We had shots that wasn't falling. Whereas on the flip side with Myers Park, when they had shots and it was multiple people, they went ahead and they was knocking those shots down, whether it was a 3-pointer by number 14 or whether it was I believe Sadiq White down low. He was just an absolute animal down there. The second point I want to make is this. I think that this is a wonderful game plan that Coach Brown and staff have. They are putting Northwood up against the best of the best to try to get them prepared for the long haul. They understand, yes, it's a very good probability that we're going to win the conference. It's a very good probability that we're going to win the conference tournament. But where is that for Coach Brown and the remainder of those players is this. Are they going to be able to make the state playoffs, which they will, and ultimately win the whole thing? That's what this is all about for Northwood. So in order to do that, they are playing these tough teams going out to Oregon. They playing in the John Wall Invitational. They playing the number 1 rated team in the MLK Classic. Yes, we want to win all these games, but the most important thing is that Northwood players gain the experience. So when the lights come back on, when it's real in the state playoffs, they're going to be able to put their best foot forward that they won't be scared of the lights, and ultimately, we're hoping that they can perform at a high level. And then the last point I want to make about that Myers Park game is this, and this is what I'm most proud of with the Northwood Chargers, the boys in particular. They never, ever gave up. They fought tooth and nail. They fought all the way to the last second. And I'm real big on this. Yes, we want to win the game. I'm about to X's and O's. All that's wonderful. But at the end, it's a philosophy. It's a life philosophy. No matter what the situation is, no matter what happens, you never give up. You fight all the way to the end. And Coach Brown had those guys playing hard all the way to the end, and that's what I'm most proud of. Asheebo.
Yeah, like you're right. Yeah, they did fight all the way to the end and try to make a little run there in the fourth quarter, led by Drake there, who really still showed up in the moment against some great players that he'll probably may even see in college at the college level as well. So even though the score of that one doesn't really tell the whole story of how that game went, it was a lot closer than the score said. But yeah, I also wanted to talk about the Jordan-Matthews and Seaforth game that happened the day before, also on Friday at the same time as Chatham Central and Northwood. And that one, I was there at that one. That one was a back and forth game, pretty much 50-50, like me and Coach Barry said on Wednesday, how that one was going to go. To start off, Seaforth got off to a big, kind of, I think it was a 10-point lead at the end of the first quarter there. And they were hitting shots led by Nate Emerson. I think he had 14 there in the first quarter there. And in the second quarter, Brendan Oldham really got going. And it's kind of like what I said, right? They didn't really have anybody to kind of match up with Brendan down low. So he's grabbing. He got 12 offensive rebounds, 20 rebounds in total, 7 blocks, and then, of course, 25 points, most of which came in the paint. And at the end, down the stretch, that was really the difference there, is they just didn't have anybody to match up with Brendan Oldham. Even Kelton Fuqua down low on the boards in those second chance opportunities. They really killed Seaforth there at the end, even though Cooper Jones tried to will them back when they were down, I think 5 at one point, and then they got it back within 3 with just a few seconds left. But yeah, Brendan Oldham really came up big for Jordan-Matthews, and we were talking to Coach Barry last week, and I told you that I think if Jordan-Matthews could really get that kind of performance out of him every night, but also on top of that, what they got from the other guys, Neil Wiley, Kelton Fuqua, who made really smart plays down the stretch and played really good defense. They played really good defense on Seaforth, especially in the press that led to some dunks for Brendan in transition. They could compete with a lot of the good teams they'll see in this conference. I will be at their game against Cummings on Friday. Cummings is third place in the conference, and we'll see how they match up against that one in their second meeting of the year. And then we also know when they played Chatham Central a couple weeks ago, that one was kind of a close game as well. So, what do you think, Coach Barry, about Jordan-Matthews? It's an interesting team because sometimes, they don't play to their potential, but when they do, they look to be, they could be one of the best teams in this conference.
Yeah, I think Jordan-Matthews, as you said before, I haven't seen him play recently, but just knowing what they have on that team and knowing the coach, I know the Coach Wiley in particular, I know he's going to have them prepared to play. If they go out and execute the things that Coach Wiley put in front of them, they'll give themselves the best chance. When you got a guy like Brendan Oldham in the middle who can be dominant if you don't have anybody to match with him, where he can score and he can set the table for other people, it could be a very tricky game for some of these other teams. The thing that I find most interesting about Jordan-Matthews is certain teams like Chatham Central and Cummings and Southeast Alamance, which I consider some of the better teams, in the conference, they're playing these teams neck and neck. I mean, these are plus or minus 5 to 8 point games. And these are the upper echelons. So that's telling you that Jordan-Matthews is right there. And under the right circumstances, if they come out and play the way they're capable of playing, they can, short of Northwood, they can go out and they can compete and surprise pretty much anybody they play. So, yes, I 100% agree with you on this, Asheebo. If you don't come with your A game, short of Northwood, against Jordan-Matthews, that game could be very tricky, and they could easily upset any of those prior teams that I just now specified.
Yep. I totally agree. And Seaforth, they did pick up, although they did lose on Monday, they did pick up a win over Bartley NC last night. They're another interesting team, kind of going through a little bit of some different things, they're experiencing on the team this year. Their coach is now on the sideline with them, recovering from surgery. And also they're kind of went on kind of a rough stretch, especially last week, with some games that they dropped there. But in this conference, I think Seaforth is I'm not sure how good they can be. I know, to me, their best player emerging is Nate Emerson, who to me has been the most consistent player, and Cooper Jones as well. But to me, the struggles really are just down low. In that game, it really showed. They have a lot of good guards that can match up, with guys like Neil Wiley. They might can match up with Kelton Fuquay on the perimeter, but when he cuts it down low, when they get driving to the basket, when it comes to on the boards, it seems like a weakness there. Now, what do you see from Seaforth, Coach Barry?
First and foremost, I want to, wish my well-beings to Coach Benelli. I know he had a medical situation that he's tending to. We wish him all, a speedy recovery, and we want him to back as soon as he can. So we want you back, Coach Benelli, and as soon as you can get yourself together, come on back. Looking at Seaforth now, that's a team that I think that short of Northwood, they can compete with any of those other teams if they put it all together. If they bind as a team, believe in themselves, believe in the sets, the systems, the processes that they work on, and they go out and execute on any given day, Seaforth can beat any team out there, whether it's Chatham Central, whether it's Cummings, whether it's Southeast Alamance, whether it's Jordan-Matthews. They can put it, if they can put it together, they are capable of doing that. They just have to buckle up as a group, as a team, and make a pact with each other. Listen, we're going to go out there and we're going to give it our all as a team, not necessarily individually, because we do have the players, from Noah to Tyshawn to Nate Emerson to Noah to Braxton Little. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. Declan Lindquist. The list goes on and on and on. But at the end of the day, until they put it together, right, then they may not reach where they want to go. But if they do put it together, they can shock a lot of people, because maybe some people have written them off right now. But I don't believe that. I don't believe that they're done. I do believe they still have some fight in them, and I do think that they're going to upend some of these teams as we just talked about. But that's only going to happen if they band together and execute.
Yeah, they got, like I said, they got a really tough group of kids that will hustle, play really hard, and I think they've just been in really tight games, especially in the conference, that they just couldn't pull out here. And with a stretch, with some more conference play against teams like Southeast, Cummings, even Bartley NC again coming up. We'll see how they fare out there in the conference. But before we get to basketball power rankings and girls basketball, we have some good news coming out of the Northwood and Myers Park game. Griffin Hobbs is back on the sideline with Northwood in the stands there, watching his team against Myers Park for the first time after his accident last 2 Saturdays ago. So, Gene, I know you saw that.
Yeah, I just want to say to that, and we talked about this at the last live stream last week. He was in an accident. The neat thing about it is, and Coach Barry and I noticed this on the Friday night game against Chatham Central, Fred Whitaker, who usually wears number 0, wore number 5. And what the team had decided is to kind of, support Griffin coming back online, to have one of the players wear his number. So Fred he's the one wearing number 5. They checked with the Hobbs to see if that was okay. They thought it was a great idea. And the neat thing is, on the night that he showed up at the Northwood game, I got a picture of both Fred and Griffin together. So, and I do know, having talked to the Hobbs family, that they were very appreciative of not only the support that Northwood community provided, but Chatham Central actually put out a video to say, hey, Griffin, we hope you get well. Unfortunately, as we know, Griffin's not going to be playing anymore for the rest of the season, but it was nice to see him back at Northwood. He was able to stay there for the whole game. And the neat thing afterwards, I just sat there and watched. Coach Berry was talking to someone else, but people after that game, it was a tough game. And this goes back to what Asheebo and Coach Berry said. It is good to play higher ranked teams. And although they lost, I think the folks that showed up at that game appreciated that game. And the other thing about the Hobbs is that I noticed is Griffin's mom was there, and they had printed up, someone had printed up pictures of Griffin and had been, had him on sticks during the game. And she had several of those, and she was smiling. And I know it's, as a parent, it's hard when your kid is suffering. So I want to thank the Chatham County, Northwoods, all the Chatham County community of supporting someone that's, part of the community. So thank you very much. And if you gentlemen want to add something, go ahead. But I think we're about ready to go into power rankings.
Yeah, Griffin Hobbs is a hero, is a beloved figure in Chatham County. I personally know Griffin Hobbs just from the Woods Charters days, being in the same grade as my oldest daughter. And I've taken it upon myself to make sure that I try to reach out to Griffin Hobbs every single day, just to give him a word of encouragement, letting them know that somebody like myself and the entire community is thinking about him. And to see him at the game versus Meyer Park, to support his teammates, and just to let everybody know that, listen, I'm here, I'm strong, I'm working hard to get back so I can get back into my day-to-day routine, it melted my heart. And I hugged his mother, Catherine. I spoke with the dad, and we hugged, and man, a tear almost came out my eye. And we whispered in each other's ears that we loved each other. And I told him, listen, no matter what, I told him, whatever it is, no matter what it is, if Griffin Hobbs needs anything, I got you. I don't care what the time is, what the day is. I got you today, tomorrow, next month, next year, for life. And you got my word on that. So Griffin Hobbs, we absolutely love you, man. Keep getting well, keep getting better, and we'll be seeing you soon.
Yep, definitely glad to see Griffin, back in high spirits and enjoying, watching his boys play against Myers Park. And, I saw him smiling, having a good time. He's sitting over there by Sean May from UNC basketball coaching staff. So definitely glad to see him doing well and enjoying the moment there on Saturday. But
the Syracuse coaches were there too.
Yeah,
they're the ones that were wearing S, but that wasn't for NC State. That was for Syracuse. All right, I'm sorry for interrupting. Go ahead. Let's do power rankings.
Let's get through the boys' power rankings before we head into.
I got a funny story about those guys.
No, we can't talk about that. Look, everybody, Asheebo's got to head out of here in 10 minutes because he's going over to talk to Reed Albright about his 1,000 points. So, Coach, you can say that story for another time. Go ahead, Asheebo. Let's do power rankings.
All right, boys' power rankings. For week of January 8th, number 1, we got Northwood. Number 2, Chatham Central. Number 3, I got Jordan-Matthews. 4, Chatham Charter. 5, Seaforth. And 6, Woods Charter. We got a little bit of changes here. I got Seaforth falling to 5 and Jordan-Matthews coming up to 3 there. And I did that just looking at the past couple of weeks, right? Seaforth hasn't had, the best, week as far as last week. I think they've before yesterday, I think they had lost about 3 or 4 games in that stretch. But Jordan-Matthews, they're picking up. They're actually in the best stretch of their season when I think 4 out of their last 5 before yesterday. So that's what I've got. And Chatham Charter also picked up 2 wins during the week, 2 conference wins. They're starting to pretty much separate themselves in the Central Tar Heel 1A conference as well. So, Coach Berry, what do you think of the boys' power rankings?
I agree with everything except for swapping Seaforth with Chatham Charter. I think styles make fights. I would still keep Seaforth above Chatham Charter at this point. I think if Seaforth played Chatham Charter, just with their physicality, the fact that they have like elder statesmen, seniors, and they run that run and jump press style, and they're going to force you to go up and down. My gut is they would have the advantage on Chatham Charter. In fact, like I said before, I believe that Seaforth, although they've had some setbacks, if they put it together outside of Northwood, they can still beat any of those other teams, whether it's Chatham Central, whether it's Jordan-Matthews. I still believe in what they can do because I know the players that they have. But I do agree with you at this point. Chatham Central, Jordan-Matthews, definitely ahead of them. You have to because they beat Seaforth, but I would still keep Chatham Charter one below Seaforth at this point.
Yeah, I see your point. It's real tight, but between three and five, like it's been all year. Jordan-Matthews, Chatham Charter, and Seaforth. Of course, we can't see Chatham Charter play Seaforth to Jordan-Matthews this year, unfortunately. But those teams, they still have plenty of games left to play, especially for Jordan-Matthews and Seaforth. We'll see how they fare out in conference play.
And I totally understand your point. I mean, if you got one team winning and you got another team, they lost 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever it is. Okay, that makes sense. They win it, they lose it. Okay, we got to go this route. But with the eye test, right? The eye test, right? I would probably go that other route. But based off how you're doing it, I would put Chatham Charter ahead. But if it's the eye test, I'm gonna go the other way.
Are you saying Asheebo has got bad eyes? Is that what you're trying to tell us?
No. I'm saying when you watch the teams playing, you look at the kind of players they have, the physicality, the speed, the intensity, the up and down, that kind of style play. Again, styles make fights. If you're not used to that type of play, it could be real tricky playing against a team that does that.
It's okay if both of you disagree, because I'm sure there's people in the county that don't agree with either one of you. So
yeah, let's go ahead and get into the girls basketball before we wrap up here. So just run down the scores from last week. Northwood, they beat Cummins on the 9th, 48-9 in dominant fashion. And then they also beat Chatham Central on Friday, 55-20. And then Chatham Central, they also lost to Cedar Ridge last week, 35-46 on the 8th. And Seaforth, they beat Jordan-Matthews Friday, 63-12. And then they beat Roseville, big game on Martin Luther King Jr. Day, 58-45. And then Chatham Charter, they went undefeated during the week. They beat Woods Charter 54-40. And then Clever Gardner School 64-38. Biggest game probably, this week for the girls' side. I think Coach Barry, your Seaforth girls went on to play Roseville on Monday and won that one. Kind of what happened in that game, and what did you see from Seaforth in that one?
It was a beautiful game for the Seaforth Lady Hawks. Roseville is one of the top teams in the state. They have a D1 guard, Division I guard. That's college. It was many college coaches there to check the game out. I think at the end of the day, the Seaforth Lady Hawks, they had a game plan. They understood that they had to play super tight defense, crash the boards, get rebound, and be patient on offense. Move the ball. Don't let this team overwhelm. And for the most part, the Seaforth Lady Hawks dominated the Roseville team. Dominated. Toward the end of the second quarter, they made a couple of shots, got to the middle, made a 3 at the end, cut it to 10. But for the most part, the game was under control for the entirety of the game. We ultimately ended up winning by 15, 16 points. It was one of the biggest wins for the Seaforth Lady Hawks for the entire year. Gabby White, you had Peyton Collins, you had Hannah. They all did absolutely wonderful. Sydney, Mia Moore, they all did phenomenal, out there playing. So, the Lady Hawks, the Seaforth Lady Hawks, they're definitely going to be a very, very tough team to beat, especially if you hadn't figured out how to deal with that defense that they play. So great win, Lady Hawks. The county is certainly looking forward to many more to come.
Yeah, Seaforth, to me, looking at how they do against teams like Roseville, some of the best teams here in the county, what they did to Northwood last week, they've really been separating themselves as the premier team in the county and in the conference as well. And then we can just go ahead and go through the girls' power rankings as well before we get out of here. But I got Seaforth at number 1, Northwood at 2, Chatham Charter at 3, Chatham Central at 4, Jordan-Matthews at 5, and Woods Charter at 6. Yeah, and to me it's a top 3. And like we said with the boys, I wish Chatham Charter could play a game against Northwood or Seaforth, just so we can really see how those teams will shake up against each other. But it's some really good basketball there at the top. And Chatham Central is another team to me that's interesting because we see they play really good against teams at their level or below, right? They'll take care of them. They just beat Northmore last night, actually 77-39 in dominant fashion. It's just when they run into teams like Seaforth, Northwood, that's just where the level is a little different. So, what do you think we'll see? What do you think we'll see there at the end of this girls' season, especially in a tournament? Like, would there be any surprises from any teams? Do you think?
Yeah, I mean, listen. Even though I think Seaforth Lady Hawks is the cream of the crop at this point in terms of the top, and it's not just because of the record. If you look at what's been going on with that team, they've played Grace Christian. We've then gone on and we went to a Cherokee tournament and we played 3 6A teams, not 4A teams, 6A team, which is small colleges. We played them on 2 out of 3. We came back and played Roseville. We played Northwood. So you start looking at this, and all of a sudden, Seaforth is a team that's been battle tested. So they're going to be tough to beat. That being said, just to answer your question, Asheebo, I think Northwood, and even though this team is not in the conference, or not in Chatham County, the other team that you're going to have to watch is going to be Southeast Alamance. So in the conference tournament, when it comes up, I think those 2 teams, even during the regular season, you got to keep your eye on those teams, because I think on any given day, any of those teams can beat each other. Now, if everybody's playing to their potential, I think Seaforth Lady Hawks is going to have the advantage. But those teams are close enough, and in some cases more athletic than Seaforth and skill, where if there's any drop-off, then Northwood can beat Seaforth, Southeast Alamance can beat Seaforth. Any of these other teams can beat anybody. But if everybody's on their game, I'm going to give the nod to Seaforth Lady Hawks, led by Gabby White.
Yeah, and yeah, Northwood showed last.
And by the way, and Katie, and Katie.
We just lost your audio.
Okay, yeah, I'm still here. So now, I mean, and the other key ingredient to this thing is I forgot Katie Leonard. She's the two-headed monster. I mean, you have Gabby White, you have Katie Leonard, and it's just going to be very, very difficult to deal with this team, especially with some of the things that Coach Bird is doing in terms of getting these girls prepared.
All right, we got to wrap it up here. So, Asheebo, where are you going to be this week?
Yeah, so Friday I'll be at Jordan-Matthews for their boys and girls games against Cummings, and then on Saturday I will be at the Mid-Carolina 1A2A wrestling tournament at Seaforth. Catching some wrestling action this week. And then also just run through athlete of the week this week was Jesse Eskelin from Chatham Central swim team. This week he in the multi-dual week alongside Asheebo led further Jordan-Matthews. He ran the fastest times for the boys 100 meters butterfly and the boys 100 meters backstroke, like we said earlier. And against more teams, there was plenty more teams at Asheebo on Wednesday. He finished first in the boys 100 meters freestyle with a time of 57 seconds. So Jesse, against more competition, proved that his time was legit. His skills are legit there. And then as of Monday, he now has 7 first place finishes in individual events this season. So congrats to Jesse Eskelin from Chatham Central for earning this week's athlete of the week.
All right, Coach Barry, where are you going to be at?
I think this week I'm going to end up checking out Southeast Alamance and Chatham Central girls. I'm also interested in that Chatham Central game when they play Southeast Alamance, the boys. Next week, I'm going to catch a bunch of Seaforth's basketball games here as well as away. So it should be real interesting. I'll keep my eye out for some other games that may pop up, but that's where I'll be.
All right. Hey, folks, thank you. We got to go. Asheebo's got to run and talk to Reed Albright. We'll see you next week. Thank you so much.